The alarm rang through the Galactic Council chambers like a scream in the night. Ambassador Thelon of the Valian people stumbled to the center platform, his 3 eyes wide with terror. His breathing came in short gasps as he activated the holographic display. The image that appeared made every delegate in the room fall silent. Refuge 7 was burning. The peaceful Valian colony, home to 3 million souls, was under attack. The screens showed cities in flames, ships bombarding the surface from orbit, and desperate civilians running for underground shelters. The Korthax Dominion had come without warning, their war fleet surrounding the defenseless world like hungry predators. Please. Thelon's voice cracked as he spoke. My people are dying. We have no weapons, no defenses. The Korthax are slaughtering everyone they find. We need help now. Council President Marax, a towering being covered in blue scales, studied the tactical display. His face showed the grim truth before he spoke it. The nearest council fleet is 3 weeks away at maximum speed. I am sorry, Ambassador Thelon. Your people do not have 3 weeks. The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Delegates from 100 worlds shouted suggestions, but everyone knew the reality. The Korthax were brutal raiders who had terrorized the outer colonies for decades. They struck fast and vanished faster. By the time any help arrived, Refuge 7 would be nothing but ash and bodies. 48 hours, Thelon whispered, staring at the countdown timer. Our shelters can hold for 48 hours. After that, the Korthax will break through and kill everyone inside. In the back of the chamber, a voice spoke in clear but accented Galactic Common. We can help. Every head turned to look at the human delegation. Ambassador Chen Weilin stood calmly, her dark eyes scanning the tactical display. Beside her stood 2 others in the distinctive blue uniforms of the United Nations Space Command. The human offers assistance, Marax said slowly, as if unsure he heard correctly. Ambassador Chen, your species only joined this council 6 months ago. You have 1 ship in this sector. 1. The UNSC Valkyrie is a rapid response vessel, Chen replied. She was designed for exactly this kind of situation. We can reach Refuge 7 in 31 hours. The chamber exploded with noise. Several delegates laughed outright. Others looked at the human ambassador as if she had gone insane. Impossible, declared Ambassador Rix of the Korthan Collective. The journey to Refuge 7 requires a minimum of 8 days even for our fastest ships. You are either lying, or your navigational computers are broken. Chen's expression did not change. Our FTL drives operate on different principles than Council technology. We can make the journey in the time I stated. And even if you could, Marax said carefully, there are 15 Korthax warships in orbit around Refuge 7. Your single ship would be destroyed within minutes. The Korthax are savage, but they are numerous and well-armed. We understand the risks, Chen said, but we will not stand by while innocents are slaughtered. That is not who we are. A strange silence fell over the chamber. The human delegation had been quiet during their first months on the council. Most delegates knew little about Earth except what appeared in the official files. A Class 12 Deathworld, one of the most hostile planets in known space. A world that, by all logic, should never have produced intelligent life. Ambassador Chen, Marax said slowly, I must be honest with you. Your homeworld's classification makes many here nervous. A death world produces beings adapted to extreme violence and survival. We have limited experience with your kind. Some delegates fear what humanity might become in a conflict situation. Chen smiled, but there was steel in her eyes. Then they are about to find out. Do we have permission to proceed? Thelon pushed forward, falling to his knees before the human delegation. Please, he begged. I do not care what your world is like. I do not care what you are. My children are down there. My children are hiding in the dark while monsters hunt them. If you can help, I beg you to try. Chen helped the Valian ambassador to his feet. We will bring your people home, she said quietly. I promise you that. Marax looked around the chamber at the other delegates. No one else volunteered. No one else had ships close enough or fast enough. Finally, he gave a slow nod. Very well. The Council authorizes the human ship to respond to the distress call. May fortune favor you, Ambassador Chen. Within minutes, the message was sent. Deep in space, the UNSC Valkyrie received its orders. On the bridge, Captain Sarah Okonkwo read the mission brief and smiled. It was the smile of a predator who had just been given permission to hunt. All hands, this is the captain, she announced over the ship-wide channel. We have a colony under attack and civilians in danger. The Korthax think they can raid and kill without consequences. Time to show them they picked the wrong galaxy. Spin up the jump drives. We launch in 10 minutes. In the crew quarters, Marines checked their weapons and armor. In engineering, technicians pushed the reactors to maximum output. In medical, doctors prepared for casualties. Every human on that ship knew what was coming. They were going to war, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you threatened innocence in front of a Deathworlder. The UNSC Valkyrie tore through space at speeds that made Council observers question their instruments. The human ship moved like nothing they had ever seen, pushing through hyperspace with what appeared to be complete disregard for safety protocols. Every jump calculation that would take Council ships hours was completed in minutes. Every safety buffer that other species considered essential was ignored. On Concordia Prime, technicians watched the tracking data in disbelief. "They are going to kill themselves," one muttered. "Those jump coordinates are too aggressive. They will tear their ship apart." But the Valkyrie did not tear apart. It jumped again and again, eating up the distance to Refuge 7 at an impossible rate. Inside the ship, Liaison Officer Tyrex clung to his seat in the observation deck and tried not to vomit. The Velian scholar had volunteered to accompany the humans, hoping to document their response and coordinate with his people on the surface. Now, he was beginning to regret that decision. Everything about this ship was wrong. The gravity was too strong, pressing down on him like an invisible weight. The lights were too bright, making his eyes hurt. The air tasted strange, filled with something the humans called oxygen in concentrations that would be toxic to most species. Even the temperature was uncomfortable, far warmer than any Velian would choose. Yet the humans moved through this environment as if it were normal. They walked with ease under gravity that would crush smaller species. They breathed the corrosive air without difficulty. They smiled and laughed and drank a black liquid they called coffee that smelled like poison to Tyrex's sensitive nose. A human woman approached him, moving with the smooth grace of a natural predator. Captain Sarah Okonkwo was tall by Velian standards, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to measure everything they saw. She handed Tyrex a container of water and sat down across from him. "How are you holding up, Officer Tyrex?" she asked. "I am managing," Tyrex lied. "Captain, may I ask you some questions about your world?" "Of course." Tyrex pulled up his datapad, which displayed Earth's classification file. "Your planet is listed as a Class 12 death world, the highest danger rating in Council records. According to this file, your surface gravity is nearly twice standard. Your atmosphere contains oxygen at levels that would be poisonous to most species. You have extreme weather patterns, active geology, and dangerous native life forms. How did your species survive there?" Okonkwo smiled. "We didn't just survive, officer, we adapted. Earth made us tough because it had to. On my world, you learn to be strong or you die young." "The file mentions something called hurricanes," Tyrex said, reading from his pad. "Storms with winds that can destroy entire cities?" "Oh, those." Okonkwo nodded. "Yeah, we get those every year. Hurricanes, tornadoes, typhoons. You learn to build strong structures and have good warning systems. We also have earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, and floods. Earth keeps us on our toes." Tyrex felt his blood run cold. "And your people live in these conditions willingly?" "We don't really have a choice," Okonkwo laughed. "It's our home. But I will admit, after growing up dodging hurricanes and earthquakes, a simple space battle does not scare me much." A young Marine walked past carrying what looked like a meal tray. Tyrex watched in horror as the human casually ate foods that his database identified as containing capsaicin, a chemical compound used in Council security weapons. The Marine was eating chemical weapons for lunch and seemed to be enjoying it. "Your people consume poison for pleasure?" Tyrex asked weakly. "You mean the hot sauce?" Okonkwo grinned. "Yeah, we like spicy food. Builds character. Want to try some?" "I would prefer to continue living," Tyrex said quickly. Over the next hours, Tyrex learned more about humanity and found each fact more disturbing than the last. Humans were persistence hunters who evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They healed from injuries that would kill other species. They could function with massive amounts of adrenaline flooding their systems, a chemical that would cause heart failure in most beings. They regularly engaged in activities that risked death simply for entertainment. We call them extreme sports, Okonkwo explained. Jumping out of aircraft, climbing mountains, diving with sharks. It helps us feel alive. You feel alive by nearly dying? Tyrex asked in disbelief. Something like that. The worst part came when Tyrex accessed Earth's biological database. The list of creatures that could kill a human was staggering. Venomous snakes and spiders, parasites that ate through flesh and brain tissue, microscopic bacteria that caused horrible diseases, massive predators with claws and teeth. The ocean alone contained enough nightmare creatures to give Tyrex years of bad dreams. And humans swim in these oceans? He asked. For fun? Sure, Okonkwo said. The sharks usually leave you alone if you leave them alone. Usually. Tyrex's voice went up an octave. As they talked, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, each person heading to their battle station. There was no panic, no fear, just calm professionalism and grim determination. We are approaching Refuge 7, Okonkwo announced. Time to insertion, 2 hours. All personnel, prepare for combat operations. Tyrex watched Marines suiting up in armor and checking weapons. He saw pilots climbing into strike fighters. He observed doctors setting up medical bays for expected casualties. Everyone knew the odds. 15 enemy warships against 1. By any logical calculation, the Valkyrie should retreat. But humans, Tyrex was learning, did not think like other species. They had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every single day. They had learned to fight back against impossible odds. They had mastered their death world and everything on it. The Korthax were about to learn what that meant. As the ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Refuge 7 system, Okonkwo stood from her command chair and addressed her crew. The Korthax think they can terrorize innocent people without consequences. They think might makes right. They think fear is a weapon. Today we teach them that there are worse things to fear than raiders and bullies. Today they meet Deathworlders. Let us show them what that means. The crew responded with a roar that made Tyrex's bones vibrate. It was the sound of predators about to hunt. And somewhere ahead in the darkness of space, the Korthax fleet waited, unaware that death was coming for them on swift wings. The Korthax fleet hung in orbit around Refuge 7 like vultures circling prey. 15 warships, each 3 times the size of the Valkyrie, moved in standard formation. Their weapons pounded the planet below, slowly breaking through to the shelters where millions of Velians huddled in terror. The Korthax war leader Krusk watched the bombardment with satisfaction. Another day, perhaps 2, and they would breach the underground cities. Then the real fun would begin. War leader, his sensor officer called out. We detect a single ship approaching. Unknown configuration. Krusk barely looked up. 1 ship? Probably some fool trying to be a hero. Destroy it when it comes into range. But the sensor officer's voice had gone strange. War leader, this ship is moving very fast. Too fast. It is already entering the system. Now Krusk paid attention. He studied the tactical display and felt his first hint of concern. The unknown vessel was smaller than his warships, but moving with impossible speed and precision. It cut through space like a blade, heading straight for his fleet. Hail them, Krusk ordered. Let us see what kind of idiot comes to die today. The communication channel opened. A human face appeared on screen, and Krusk felt his spine ridges flatten in confusion. He had never seen this species before. The female had dark skin, predator's eyes, and a smile that showed her small, flat teeth. Everything about her screamed danger to Krusk's combat-trained instincts. Korthax fleet, this is Captain Sarah Okonkwo of the United Nations Space Command ship Valkyrie. You are ordered to cease your attack on Refuge 7 immediately and withdraw from this system. This is your only warning. Krusk laughed, and his bridge crew joined in. Human, you face 15 warships with a single vessel. You have no chance of victory. Leave now and we might let you escape with your life. Okonkwo's smile grew wider. You misunderstand the situation, war leader. This is not a negotiation. This is a courtesy. I am telling you what is about to happen. You can leave now and live, or stay and face the consequences. Choose quickly, arrogant prey, Krusk snarled. All ships target that vessel. Tear it apart. The Korthax fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and missiles filled the space where the Valkyrie had been. But the human ship was already gone, moving with impossible agility. It danced between the weapons fire like a leaf in a storm, never staying still long enough to be targeted. Then the Valkyrie struck back, not with massive weapons or overwhelming firepower, but with precision and cunning. Dozens of small objects shot out from the human ship, spreading through the Korthax formation faster than sensors could track. They looked like space debris, like nothing important. "What are those?" Krusk demanded. The answer came when the first mine activated. An electromagnetic pulse washed over 3 Korthax warships, frying their electronics and leaving them blind and helpless. Before Krusk could respond, more mines activated in sequence, creating cascading failures throughout his fleet. Ships lost power. Weapons went offline. Communication systems screamed with static. "Impossible," Krusk roared. "No one fights like this." But the humans were just getting started. While the Korthax fleet struggled with disabled systems, the Valkyrie launched dozens of small craft. They were drop pods, each carrying heavily armed Marines. The pods plummeted toward the planet's surface, ignoring the defensive fire that tried to stop them. "They are landing troops," the sensor officer shouted. "They are attacking our ground forces." Krusk could not believe what he was seeing. The humans had turned the entire engagement into chaos. There was no honor in this, no proper formation, no traditional tactics. They fought like demons, striking from every direction at once with weapons and methods the Korthax had never encountered. On the surface of Refuge 7, the Korthax ground commander Vexar was having an even worse day. His warriors had been preparing to breach the shelter entrances when fire rained from the sky. Human drop pods crashed down around his positions, and from them emerged soldiers in powered armor that made them look like ancient war gods. The humans moved through the Korthax positions like death itself. They used cover that Korthax warriors ignored. They coordinated their attacks with perfect timing. They employed weapons that seemed designed specifically to cause maximum confusion and terror. Smoke grenades, flashbangs, sonic disruptors. Each Marine fought with the skill of a veteran warrior, and they worked together like parts of a single deadly machine. Vexar watched in growing horror as his forces fell back again and again. The humans were smaller than Korthax warriors, but they were faster, smarter, and far more vicious. They targeted commanders first, destroying the chain of command. They used the terrain to their advantage. They seemed to predict every move Vexar made before he made it. "These are not normal soldiers," Vexar transmitted to the fleet. "They fight like they were born for war." "They were," came a human voice over the communication channel. A Marine lieutenant appeared on screen, his armor scorched from battle but his eyes bright with combat fury. "We come from a death world, Korthax. War is what we do best. You wanted to fight? Congratulations. You found us." In orbit, Krusk was losing control of the situation. 3 of his ships were completely dead in space. 4 more were operating at reduced capacity. The Valkyrie had not destroyed a single vessel, but it had crippled half his fleet without firing a single heavy weapon. And now something even worse was happening. His warriors were afraid. The Korthax were raiders and bullies who preyed on the weak. They had never faced an enemy that fought back with such skill and ferocity. They had never encountered beings who seemed to enjoy combat. The humans did not just fight, they hunted, and the Korthax were the prey. War leader, his second-in-command, said quietly, "We should retreat. This battle is lost." Krusk wanted to argue, wanted to rage against the shame of defeat, but he was not stupid. He had brought 15 ships to crush a defenseless colony, and found himself fighting for survival against a single human vessel. Every instinct screamed at him to run. "All ships," he said, hating every word, "withdraw from the system. Maximum speed." As the Korthax fleet limped away into hyperspace, Okonkwo watched them go with satisfaction. Around the planet, her Marines were securing the area and helping Velian civilians emerge from their shelters. Not a single human had been killed. A few were wounded, but nothing serious. Tyrex appeared on the bridge, his 3 eyes wide with shock. "Captain, how did you do that? 15 ships against 1. You should have lost." Okonkwo smiled and gestured at the tactical display. "We did not fight their battle, Officer Tyrex. We fought ours. The Korthax expected traditional warfare, honor, and formation. We gave them chaos and terror. That is what makes Deathworlders dangerous. We do not play by the rules. We make new ones." Below on Refuge 7, Velian children emerged into sunlight for the first time in days. They found human Marines distributing food and water, doctors treating the wounded and engineers already working to repair damaged infrastructure. The Deathworlders had come to save them, and they had succeeded. The news spread through the galactic network like wildfire. Within hours, every species in Council space had heard about what happened at Refuge 7. A single human ship had faced 15 Korthax warships and won. Not just won, but humiliated them completely. The footage was everywhere, recorded by Velian satellites and shared across 1,000 worlds. Council chambers buzzed with shocked conversation. In homes and offices across the galaxy, people watched the battle recordings again and again, trying to understand what they had witnessed. The humans had not fought like any species they knew. There was no honor, no formal challenge, no traditional tactics. Just pure, calculated efficiency designed to end the battle as quickly as possible. But it was the ground combat footage that truly terrified people. The recording showed human Marines performing feats that seemed impossible. They fought in conditions that would kill other species. They sustained injuries that should have stopped them and kept fighting. They moved with a coordination and skill that suggested centuries of warfare, compressed into their genetic memory. One clip went viral across the network. It showed a human Marine carrying a wounded Velian child to safety while under fire. The Marine took 3 hits to her armor, staggered, and kept moving. When she reached safety, she set the child down gently, checked that the child was unharmed, and then turned around and went back into the fight. The look in her eyes was pure determination mixed with protective fury. "They are monsters," some species said. "They are guardians," others replied. The Korthax Dominion was not happy. War leader Krusk had returned to his home fleet in disgrace, and the Dominion's high command demanded answers. How could their forces be defeated so easily? How could a single ship from a newly discovered species outfight an entire battle group? The Dominion's representative stood before the Galactic Council 3 days after the battle. Ambassador Vron was a large Korthax with ceremonial battle scars and an attitude of righteous anger. He pointed at the human delegation as he spoke. "The humans violated every law of honorable warfare," Vron declared. "They used dishonorable tactics. They attacked command vessels first, which is against tradition. They deployed weapons designed to confuse and terrorize rather than kill cleanly. They showed no respect for proper combat protocols. The Council must condemn these actions and punish Earth for their crimes." Ambassador Chen Wei-Lin stood slowly. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard as steel. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the chamber. "Ambassador Vron, let me make sure I understand your complaint. The Korthax Dominion attacked a peaceful colony without provocation. You bombarded civilian shelters. You prepared to massacre 3 million innocent people. And now you are upset because we stopped you using methods you consider dishonorable?" "Yes," Vron said. "There are rules to warfare. You ignored them." Chen's response was cold and precise. "You attacked civilians. We stopped you. Be grateful we showed restraint. Every human on that ship wanted to destroy your fleet completely. Captain Okonkwo gave you a chance to retreat and you took it. That is the only reason your warriors went home alive." The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates supported Chen's position. Others seemed troubled by the implications. If humans could defeat the Korthax so easily, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? President Marax called for order. "Ambassador Chen, the Council acknowledges that your actions saved Velian lives. However, many members are concerned about Earth's military capabilities. Your tactics were unlike anything we have seen. Some fear that humanity poses a danger to galactic peace." "With respect, President Marax," Chen replied, "the danger to galactic peace comes from empires like the Korthax who believe they can attack the weak without consequences. Humanity did not start this fight. We finished it. There is a difference." Liaison Officer Tyrex requested permission to speak. The Velian scholar approached the center platform, his report pad in hand. Every eye turned to him, waiting to hear what the only witness had to say. "I traveled with the humans," Tyrex began. "I was afraid of them at first. Their world is classified as a Class 12 death world for good reason. They breathe poison, live under crushing gravity, and evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every day. I expected them to be violent, savage, cruel." He paused and looked directly at the assembled delegates. "But that is not what I found. Yes, the humans are warriors. Yes, they are dangerous in combat. But they are also compassionate. When the battle ended, human medics treated wounded Korthax soldiers with the same care they gave their own. Human engineers worked for days helping repair Velian infrastructure. Human Marines played with Velian children and made them laugh after their terrible ordeal. Tyrex activated his pad, showing images from Refugee 7. Pictures of human soldiers sharing their food rations with hungry civilians. A Marine teaching a Velian child how to tie proper knots. A doctor working 30 hours straight to treat every wounded person, regardless of species. Deathworlders are not monsters, Tyrex said quietly. They are complex beings shaped by a harsh environment. Yes, they can be terrifying in battle, but they choose to use that strength to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is not something to fear. That is something to respect. In the days that followed, galactic society struggled to process this new reality. The major news networks ran constant analysis of human capabilities. Military strategists studied the battle recordings, trying to understand human tactics. Sociologists debated what the emergence of a death world species meant for the Council's future. Some species began reaching out to Earth, requesting diplomatic meetings and cultural exchanges. They wanted to understand these strange beings who could be so fierce in battle yet so gentle in peace. Others withdrew in fear, building up their defenses in case humanity turned aggressive. The Korthax Dominion took a different approach. In their capital city, the High Command met in secret session. They had been humiliated by a single human ship. Their reputation as strong raiders was damaged. Something had to be done to restore their honor and show the galaxy that the Korthax were still to be feared. We must strike back, the Supreme War Leader declared. We must show these humans that attacking the Dominion has consequences. We will gather our full fleet and attack Earth itself. We will burn their death world to ash and scatter their remains across space. That will teach the galaxy to respect us. The vote was unanimous. The Korthax would have their revenge. News of the decision leaked slowly through intelligence channels. Within 2 weeks, Ambassador Chen received a classified report that made her blood run cold. The Korthax were assembling the largest fleet they had ever launched. 300 warships. Their target was Earth. Chen immediately requested an emergency session with the Council. When she presented the evidence, the chamber fell silent. Even those who feared humanity felt a chill. The Korthax were preparing to commit genocide against an entire planet. This is madness, President Marak said quietly. The Korthax cannot believe they will succeed. Chen looked at the assembled delegates with an expression they could not quite read. President Marak's members of the Council, I want to be clear about something. The Korthax are planning to attack the human homeworld. They think they can come to our death world and win. They are wrong. You sound very confident, Ambassador, a delegate noted. 300 ships against one world, no matter how dangerous, seems overwhelming. Chen smiled, and for the first time, the Council saw a glimpse of what had terrified the Korthax. They are not attacking some distant colony. They are attacking Earth, our home, the place where we learn to survive and fight. The Korthax think they know what Deathworlders can do. They have no idea. 3 months after Refuge 7, the Korthax Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Supreme War Leader Thrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the blue and green world ahead. 300 warships, the largest fleet the Korthax had ever assembled. Surely this would be enough to crush one primitive death world. Scan for defenses, Thrax ordered. Let us see what these humans have prepared. The sensor officer worked frantically, his claws clicking against the console. When he looked up, his face had gone pale. War Leader, you need to see this. The tactical display lit up and Thrax felt his confidence drain away like water through his claws. The solar system was not defenseless. It was a fortress. Orbital defense platforms ringed Earth like a crown of thorns. The moon had been converted into a massive military base. The asteroid belt contained hundreds of hidden weapon stations. Mars hosted long-range missile batteries that could strike across millions of miles. And everywhere were ships. Not just the single vessel that had defeated them at Refuge 7. Hundreds of human warships, each one moving with the same deadly precision. Fighters swarmed like insects. Destroyers prowled the orbital lanes. Massive carriers hung in formation, ready to deploy their full wings. How many ships? Thrax whispered. Over 400 combat vessels detected, the sensor officer reported. And War Leader. They are all transmitting the same message on open channels. Play it, Thrax ordered. A human voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect Korthax language. Korthax Fleet, this is Admiral James Hawkins of Earth Defense Command. You came to our home. You came to our death world. This is where we are strongest. This is where we will end you. Surrender now and you will be treated fairly. Continue your attack and you will not leave the system alive. Choose. Thrax snarled and cut the channel. They are bluffing. They cannot have this many ships. It must be sensor ghosts and tricks. All vessels advance in formation. Target their orbital defenses first. The Korthax fleet moved forward and Earth's defenders moved to meet them. What followed was not a battle. It was a lesson in why Deathworlders should never be underestimated on their home territory. The humans knew their solar system like Korthax knew their own bodies. They used the gravity wells of planets to slingshot their ships into perfect attack positions. They hid weapons in asteroid clusters and debris fields that Korthax sensors could not detect. They lured enemy formations into radiation belts that fried sensitive electronics while human ships, designed for Earth's harsh environment, operated normally. Human pilots flew through conditions that would kill other species. They maneuvered in solar winds, gravitational anomalies, and radiation zones that made Korthax navigation computers scream warnings. The humans did not just endure these hazards. They weaponized them. Thrax watched his fleet being torn apart piece by piece. Every time he thought he had the advantage, the humans revealed another trap. Every time he tried to press forward, they fell back and drew him deeper into their web. The solar system itself was fighting against him, and the humans were its weapon. Fall back to the outer system, Thrax ordered desperately. We regroup and try a different approach. But there was no outer system to fall back to. Human ships had surrounded the Korthax fleet from every direction. The trap had been set from the moment they entered the system, and Thrax had walked right into it. Surrender, came Admiral Hawkins' voice again. Your fleet is surrounded. Your ships are damaged. We have you completely outmaneuvered. Surrender and live. Continue fighting and die. Those are your only options. Thrax looked at the tactical display. Over half his ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were trapped. His warriors were demoralized and terrified. He had come to destroy a death world, and instead found himself facing beings who had mastered their hostile environment so completely that they could use it as a weapon against invaders. We surrender, Thrax said, the words like poison in his mouth. The human response was immediate. All Korthax vessels, power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Wounded will receive medical attention. Prisoners will be treated according to the Articles of War. Any ship that attempts to escape will be destroyed. Admiral Hawkins out. What happened next shocked the surviving Korthax more than the battle itself. Human Marines boarded their ships not to execute them but to provide aid. Medical teams treated wounded Korthax with the same care they gave their own people. Human engineers helped repair life support systems to keep prisoners alive during transport. Guards were firm but not cruel. Food was provided. Basic dignity was maintained. I do not understand, Thrax said to the human captain who processed his surrender. We came to destroy your world. Why do you treat us with mercy? Captain Okonkwo, who had come from the Valkyrie to oversee the prisoner transfer, looked at the Supreme War Leader with tired eyes. Because we are not like you, Thrax. We could kill you all easily. Earth could have destroyed your entire fleet within the first hour of battle. But we chose to disable rather than destroy. We chose to capture rather than kill. That is what separates us from raiders and butchers. We fight when we must, but we do not murder when we have won. The news reached the Galactic Council within hours. The Korthax Dominion's entire fleet had been defeated. Earth remained untouched. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. The victory was so complete, so overwhelming that many delegates could not process it. Ambassador Chen stood before the council once more, but this time she was not alone. Behind her stood representatives from 6 other species, each one from a world classified as a death world. They had been watching. They had seen what humanity accomplished, and they had decided to step out of the shadows. Members of the council, Chen began. For too long, Deathworld species have remained isolated, afraid that the rest of the galaxy would fear us, but recent events have shown that we have something to offer. Strength, yes. Military capability, certainly. But also the wisdom that comes from surviving in the harshest environments. We learn to be tough, but we also learn to be adaptable, creative, and compassionate. She gestured to the delegates behind her. These are my fellow Deathworlders. We come from worlds that tried to kill us every day. We survived and became stronger. Now we offer our strength to the Council, not as conquerors or threats, but as protectors. We propose the formation of a peacekeeping force drawn from Deathworld species to respond to situations like Refuge 7, to stop aggressors, to protect the innocent, to show the galaxy that strength without mercy is tyranny, but strength with compassion is justice. The chamber was silent. President Marax looked at the Deathworld delegation for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. The Council will need time to discuss this proposal, but I will say this. You have proven that Deathworlders are not monsters to be feared. You are allies to be valued. The galaxy is better for your presence. 6 months later, Captain Sarah Okonkwo stood before the Galactic Council once more. This time she wore a new uniform, one that blended human military tradition with council symbols. Behind her stood Marines, pilots, and officers from a dozen Deathworld species, all united under one banner. The peacekeeping force is ready, she announced. We stand prepared to defend the innocent, to stop aggression, and to show the galaxy that power does not have to mean oppression. We are Deathworlders. We come from the harshest worlds in known space, and we choose to use our strength to protect, not to destroy. Across the galaxy, a new era had begun. The old empires built on fear and intimidation were learning that they could no longer prey on the weak. The Deathworlders had emerged, and they had changed everything. In a small home on Refuge 7, a Velian child played with a toy given to her by a human marine. It was a small thing, a stuffed earth animal called a bear, but to her it represented something important. It represented hope. It represented protection. It represented the day the Deathworlders came to save her world. And across the stars, wherever innocents were threatened, wherever bullies thought they could act without consequences, the peacekeeping force stood ready. They were not perfect. They were not invincible, but they were determined. They were skilled, and they remembered what it was like to fight every day just to survive. The galaxy had trembled when it first heard about Deathworlders. Now it could rest easier knowing that those same beings stood watch against the darkness. The age of the Deathworld species had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again.